Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith, Pennsylvania editor for the Center Square. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Anthony Hennon. Anthony brings us several stories this week following up on the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. He actually spent a few days out in Western Pennsylvania and East Palestine for the Center Square, and he's been bringing us the perspectives of the people impacted in those communities. Anthony, what can you tell us about how people feel about the response from state and local officials out there in both Ohio and Pennsylvania?
I wouldn't categorize it as, effusive praise. I would essentially look at this from righteous indignation and fury over a perceived lack of response to one that's cautiously endorsing what's been done, but is still waiting for more, especially when you're talking to residents in the area. What they really want to see and what they really want to hear is, one, they want to hear from and see state leaders more than they already have. There's a big emphasis on they don't want to just see coming out from the governor's cabinet or other executive positions. They want to see the governor actually out here. They want to see their U.S. senators out here visiting and understanding their problems and their issues. They essentially, a lot of it, I think, is being made to feel that they're a priority after going through something that's really hurt the town, the image, the broader economic consequences of the fallout from all this. And the other thing they really want is generally just more information and more testing being done. It's, of course, very hard to keep up with a lot of the things going on here, and also seeing more testing of air quality, of water quality, of soil quality. I think in the beginning, air quality has been the one that's the less concern at this point, simply because you can see the air quality monitors set up around town. People aren't necessarily getting as sick as they were in the early weeks after the train derailment and when Norfolk Southern burned 5 tankers of vinyl chloride in a ditch. So it seems like, at least on the air side, that's not as big of an emphasis, but now it's water and it's soil. The water tests are generally coming back fine. There's been a lot of testing within a mile radius of where it happened in East Palestine, and that's slowly expanding out to 2 miles, 3 miles. But there's still, it's kind of mixed. A number of people are still drinking water out of the tap and that sort of thing. But at the same time, there's a lot of demand for water bottles. You're seeing a ton of water donations coming into the city. That's mixed. I think that'll take a while to see a lot of local confidence coming back to that. I mean, I grew up in Southeast Ohio across from DuPont. And when I was a teenager, there was a big controversy over DuPont releasing C8 into the water as part of a byproduct of some of the plastics being made. And so I had free bottled water for, I think, 2 years. And still, my parents back home don't drink out of the tap, even though, the water's testing fine. But these are some of those long run things that stick around. And I think we'll see the same in the area of East Palestine and then outside in Pennsylvania near the city. But I think also a big thing here has been soil quality and testing the soil, just because the way the smoke from the burn off spread out, you're not seeing as much soil testing yet. I mean, that's ramping up now, but you're also seeing delays where some of the soil testing, it takes a day or so to collect the soil and ship it off to a lab. But we're seeing a lot of delays at these labs to test it simply from a backlog of other demands. So I think we should be seeing some soil sample testing results coming in next day or so, but there's still a long wait for that. And a lot of locals, they just don't really feel like state leaders or federal leaders are really proactively reaching out to residents to make sure their water and their soil is getting tested, but also alerting them to what's going on. So I think those are sort of the high barriers here.
One of the most interesting quotes from one of your stories, it gave a lot of color to the distrust and to the kind of feelings of residents on both sides of the border. You interviewed somebody who said that they wished their governor in Ohio was standing up to Norfolk Southern the way that our governor is. And I found that really fascinating. And in fact, they said they felt like people in Pennsylvania were getting more attention than those in Ohio, which again, from our perspective over here, it seems to be the opposite. So it's really fascinating how this is being perceived and dealt with in the communities. And you actually covered the silver linings of this, a brighter side of this story that's come out of it that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, and rightfully so, given the gravity of the situation. Can you talk to us a little bit more about some of the bright things that have happened here?
Yeah, so I think this is, it's not that surprising where after a couple weeks of reporters flowing into East Palestine in the area and just constantly bothering people to talk to them, I mean, you look at you look at one doctor's office on the main street down there, and the sign is patients only. No journalists, nothing like that. It makes sense that there's kind of this view of local residents where journalists have been vultures because they just kind of come in, get their quotes, and take off. But on the bright side, I mean, you're seeing a large outpouring of charity coming in nationwide and internationally as well. I spoke with the First Church of Christ in East Palestine about their kind of disaster relief efforts, and they've been coordinating a lot of water donations. I mean, just some of the numbers they're giving me. They're giving out about 13 pallets of water to locals every week. One pallet holds about 3,800 water bottles. So there's a lot of water coming in and being given out to residents. I heard stories of, convoys being driven up from North Carolina just full of water. Other, engineering firms out in Florida donating water, cleaning supplies, animal feed and farm supply outside Indianapolis donated several tons of animal and livestock feed, straw, hay, water, other necessities. They've received donations from, Canadians, from Australians. So you've seen a lot of, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of fury around the town, around the area. By the same time, I mean, you're seeing all sorts of donations coming in from all sorts of people. There's still a lot of things to deal with, but it's at least, it's a nice sign to see that, other Americans who are completely disconnected from East Palestine still do care about what's happening.
Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Anthony Hennon, this is Kristen Smith. Please subscribe and thanks for listening.
Freedom and liberty are important to all of us. If you're looking for civil, intellectual conversations with those shaping the future of freedom, try the Future of Freedom podcast with me, Scott Bertram. We speak with leaders across the country in the greater conservative and libertarian movements. In-depth conversations about where the next intellectual battles will happen across the country. It's the Future of Freedom podcast. Find it at americastalking.com or wherever you get your podcasts.